The SEC Baseball Tournament in Hoover, Alabama. It's one of the greatest sporting events anywhere. 6 days with some of the most intense fan bases in the entire country, all gathered to watch regional hosts, College World Series teams, and Missouri battle it out on the same field. It has an advantage due to fielding 4 additional teams, but there are some years where there is truly more talent in the bracket in Hoover than there is in Omaha a few weeks later. In addition to having all these things going for it, the SEC Baseball Tournament is also pointless. Let me put an asterisk on that. If you're a team that's right on the bubble to get into the tournament, or possibly trying to position yourself to host a regional, then it has some value. But even those teams rarely go into it needing to win more than a couple games to be safe. However, if you're a team that feels comfortable about your postseason placement, there is no reason to make any attempt of having a long stay in Hoover. In fact, recent trends even suggest that the fewer games you play, the better off you are down the road. After a grueling stretch of 10 straight weekends against SEC competition, a 12-team double elimination tournament isn't exactly the R&R a team needs to refocus for the NCAA tournament. Even worse than not being able to rest, you also open yourself up to injuries at the worst possible time. Arkansas sure experienced this. In 2021, Brady Slavens rolled his ankle pretty bad stepping on first, and last year Dave Van Horn almost got cancer. How is that a real thing that happened? Now, I'm far from the first person to make this observation, but I wanted to look a little closer into how valid it actually is. How do teams do down the road depending on how long their stay in Hoover is? So only looking at teams who made the NCAA tournament, because those are the examples we care about for this exercise, over the last 5 years, 14 teams went winless in Hoover, meaning they either lost their first game in the single elimination portion or got a bye into double elimination where they lost their first 2 games. The other group I'll be looking at is teams that played at least 4 games in Hoover. So these are squads that strung together at least 2 wins and had a pretty long stay. 17 teams fall into this bucket. Of the 14 teams in the first group, 9 of them won their regional and advanced to the Supers. 6 of those made it a step further and played in Omaha. 2 of them ended up as national champions. The last 2, actually. For our 17 teams over here that spent a few additional nights in Hoover hotels, 10 went on to play in Supers, only 3 advanced to the College World Series, with 1 winning it all. I understand that correlation does not equal causation, and this is a pretty small sample size of only 5 years, but to me, these numbers are pretty interesting. Their performance in regionals haven't been that different, but teams from the winless group have been advancing to the College World Series nearly 2.5 times more often. Now, while making this, I realized there was just one small group of teams that I was excluding. Those who went to Hoover and played exactly 3 games. Now, based on how the tournament is structured, this could mean going 1-2 or 2-1. It all just depends on where you started in the seeding. But either way, these are still teams that did not have a very long stay, at least compared to what a normal weekend series would be. The breakdown of that group is 15 teams in total, with 10 winning their regional, 8 making it to Omaha, and 1 taking home the title. This is probably the most successful group of the bunch. Over half of the tournament teams that played exactly 3 games in Hoover ended up in the College World Series. That's crazy. If we consolidate here and just look at teams that played 3 or fewer games versus 4 or more, the difference is stark. Going into a regional where you might have to play as many as 5 games in a weekend, playing another 5 the week before against even better competition probably isn't setting you up for success. Once again, I want to make it really clear, this is only a trend and it could change completely at any time. However, if you hear people say things like Hoover doesn't matter or just win a game and go home, at least in recent history, the data backs that up.